Welcome back to the Beauty Body Balance Podcast. Hi, I'm Dr. Erin Lucie, nurse practitioner and owner of Luminate Clinic here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Today, we are going to talk to you about stress and how stress plays an important role in your overall aging process. The way I think of stress is we call it like inflammaging, really. And I have Micah Lucie here with me, who is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Plus, I'm your husband, so there's that bonus right there. Yeah, so stress is really something that's kind of near and dear to me. I don't know if you've seen a previous video of ours, but I have an existing heart condition, and in 2023, I actually went to cardiac arrest, and it's been a long, long journey to get to this point. Stress really wasn't the cause. Obviously I have a malfunctioning valve at the time, but stress was certainly an underlying cause in what led to me having that experience. And I've got some statistics here because I want to start with that just to give you kind of like an overall picture of where we are when it comes to stress, right? So
where we are as a nation.
Where we are as a nation through the United States. Yeah. 49% of U.S. adults report experiencing frequent stress. 82% of U.S. workers report work-related stress is being a factor in their lives. Stress in the workplace is estimated to be costing the U.S. economy $300 billion a year. 90% of the $4.9 trillion we spend on healthcare can be tied to largely preventable chronic diseases and illness, which have an underlying stress as the reason those are there. And those would be things like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, respiratory diseases, things like that. And of the 1.7 million deaths per year in the United States, 90% of them can be attributed to stress or a chronic illness or a largely preventable issue being the cause of that. So stress is really what they call the silent epidemic. And let's kind of like define what stress really is. Stress is basically a burden on your systems having to focus on dealing with an issue in your life that it shouldn't on a regular basis. So we have stress in small amounts, which we're hardwired to handle. So for example, if I have to do a public speaking, if I'm sitting here doing a podcast, a little bit of stress is fine. That's good for you. But it's when that stress lingers. And it can really come from a lot of different avenues. So you have physical stress. Maybe you have a lingering injury. Maybe you have knee pain that's always kind of there, even though it doesn't feel like that's stress, right? Maybe you have emotional stress. You're dealing with relationships that are struggling. You're dealing with a workplace that is putting long hours into. You also have mental stress as well, along with the emotional side. So you think about the rise of depression and anxiety that we have in our society. There's a million different ways that stress can be a part of your life. And our job, and the thing we focus on from a functional health perspective, is to help manage it. I like to think about the ocean. If you have waves of the ocean, instead of just throwing you a life raft and you're barely struggling and you're treading water, we're helping you get on a surfboard and ride those waves so that you can basically enjoy your life and handle stress at the same time. That's really our goal.
And from an anti-aging perspective, stress is like one of the very worst things that you can have in your life because it creates so much inflammation, and then inflammation leads to basically like reduced cellular function and then increased aging at a faster rate. So the higher stress you have, you're actually aging yourself faster. And a great example is if you look at presidents, right? Mm-hmm. When they go into office and then what they look like when they're out of office. And that the signs of aging that you see might be like going gray, or you start to see lines and wrinkles, you start to see the skin thinning. The same thing is happening on the inside to your regular organs. So if you're seeing it happen here, it's absolutely happening to your organs on the inside. And I think of stress as like if you are like being chased by a lion, right? Or a tiger or whatever is chasing you. Your body is made for stress in short amounts of time. Like you need to have that cortisol spike where you're able to actually like run and get away. But we don't have it in us genetically or physiologically to be stressed all the time. And like a long distance runner, like to run and run and run and run and run can actually increase your cortisol. Then it messes up your insulin, and it's actually like not very good for your body, and your organs start to shut down, and all these other things can happen when you do that kind of long distance running, and or like long distance working all day for 70 hours or 80 hours a week. It's not good on your body to be turned on and have that high level of stress all the time. So you don't want to be have this mode of running from a bear, running from something going all the time. And the same things happened, even just like the sound of your email going off or a text message going off, it turns on that trigger as a stress response. And so it's good to have just like a brain break, like just moment of silence, just everything turned off to where you're having that decrease in those constant triggers. Like we were not made to have constant stress going all the time, only short bits of stress.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing to really to keep in mind too is that the brain and the body, they cannot distinguish different types of stress. So if you perceive something as stressful, the body's going to interact the same way. It doesn't matter if it is that running from a lion or just you being nervous about a relationship or nervous about something coming up. The body's going to view that stress and react the same way. So really one of the important things we want to talk about today is just some basic strategies to kind of help manage stress, no matter the time of year, whatever's going on in your life. We want to give you some tools just to help manage the stress. One thing we look at that's huge for us is breath work. Breath work is really one of the easiest ways and cheapest ways, because it's free, just your own breath, but easiest ways to kind of manipulate that stress response. And there's two different ways we like to do it. One is called box breathing. And box breathing is 4 counts in slow breath through the nose. You hold for 4 counts. You breathe out for 4 counts through the mouth, and you hold for another 4 counts. And you just repeat that for maybe 5-10 minutes. You might have to work your kind of way up to that, but that's one way. Another way is 4-7-8 breathing, and that's 4 counts in through the nose, hold for 7 counts, and then breathe slowly through the mouth for 8 counts. So breathing is a great way to manipulate the nervous system, specifically what's called the vagus nerve. And vagus nerve, it's actually Greek for wandering. It's the longest cranial nerve in our body, and it ties to all of our organs, liver, heart, all that kind of stuff, kidneys. And there's actually over 200,000 nerve fibers within the vagus nerve. So if you can work to manipulate that, it will change the game on stress. Anything else? Or might I keep going? Okay. Another way too, just in your daily life, is to really schedule time to be away from stress. If you're married, date.
I'm not stressed.
No. I don't know. I'm not saying you're stressed, but no. But putting date nights on the calendar and making that a non-negotiable is huge. I talked to so many couples that I helped through my functional health program. They're like, "Well, we haven't been on a date night in a year. We just don't have time for that." It's like, no, you have time. You have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can find 2 hours of your life to go out and reconnect in a different way. We have 4 small children. I get it. But that time alone is so important. It was just us before the kids, right? So we need that. We need that reconnection time. Or else you just kind of become roommates, which is not fun.
Part of that reconnection time is like actually making contact with people. If I do have a stressful day, or if I'm getting like, stressed, Micah will give me a hug, and not just a regular hug. The hug has to last for at least 20 to 30 seconds, because it decreases your cortisol after that amount of time. So in order to...
And gives you oxytocin.
And oxytocin is your love hormone, and it builds that connection. So if you can make eye contact with somebody for an extended period of time, and then touching, like having that, it has to be 20 to 30 seconds, and enough time for your body to actually be like, okay, I feel okay after this point, or I'm safe and secure, and you're not being chased by a lion anymore. Like your body has to have enough time to feel that relaxation.
Yeah, it's funny because when I do that hug to her,
I hate it.
She hates it. But I can feel like this tense, and then about 20-30 seconds later, the shoulders start to drop, and then she's relaxed. So it really does work.
Whatever.
Another thing that I love, and a lot of people are always fascinated by this, is something called color noise or frequency noise. But there are different frequencies that are creating waves that actually can manipulate our own brain waves. So, for example, if you look up like pink noise, if you have Spotify or Apple
Brown
Music,
noise.
brown noise,
Uh-huh.
yeah, pink noise, white noise, things like that, these different noises or frequencies. You could even type, for example, like I think 741 hertz is a cortisol reducing frequency, things like that. Listening to those even while you're working, or if you're just getting home from work or starting your morning, those things can actually alter your brain waves and put you in a state of calmness and manipulate the nervous system. So it's fascinating.
We have a specific wavelength playing in our facial room to kind of
Yeah,
induce that relaxation.
which helps our treatments too, because the
Right.
less stress someone has, the better their skin's gonna respond. Things like that. Another one too, which we actually just
And we
tried.
play those for our kids also.
Yeah, we
to,
do play from the kids. Yeah, we
especially
do,
at bedtime.
and it works too. They sleep through the night. Another one, we had a recent chance to go to Bali this past summer, and sitting in the airport, we flew like 30 hours. So when we got to the airport, we were both pretty stressed out and not feeling comfortable. So we put our legs up against the wall. So if you lay on your back, put your legs and feet up against the wall straight up. That can actually help to stimulate the calming part of your nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. And it was awesome. Even we got some weird looks. I don't care. It worked. So it was worth it.
And it's great in an airport because you're getting that blood flow and that lymphatic drainage and that circulation.
For sure. Another one I really like too, on top of, we talked about date nights, but scheduling time for yourself. I think for me, finding some moments just to be by myself. Erin and I actually have scheduled time within the week. So, for example, Monday nights are her girls' night. She goes and usually is just with herself for 2 or 3 hours. Thursday night are my nights, so I get to do whatever I want those nights. And sometimes I might go see a movie. I might just go hike, things like that. But we have these evenings built into our lives that allow us to disconnect from the craziness and kind of reconnect with ourselves. So that's super important too.
Mm-hmm. And I think, coming from the world of aesthetics, it's seeing women that are actually like, like you have to make that time for yourself, and it's hard. I think sometimes for women it's hard to say, oh, I'm going to spend this money on myself, or I'm going to get this facial, or I'm going to get this peel or Botox or whatever it is. It's hard when you become that caretaker and you're taking care of everything. And somebody we're kind of into this point. I'm not taking care of my parents. Like they're doing great right now, but I could see like I'm in this weird kind of in between, like, oh, I might have to take care of my parents, and then I'm going to take care of my kids and take care of my husband and take care of my business. There's so much going on. It's hard to make time for yourself. And even, I mean, I own a med spa and we have facial treatments here, and I haven't had a facial in months. So it's hard to like actually like make that time for that downtime. And if it wasn't scheduled, like if my Monday nights weren't scheduled and he didn't make me do it, I probably wouldn't do it. But it's really important to make that time. So either do it for yourself or like make your spouse have that time.
Yeah, I think that is the key. Is we've touched on a couple times here, but the scheduling, right? Like you've got to plan your life to be intentional. It can't just be, I'm going to randomly do this today because I thought of it. It's got to be, hey, here's my week, and I'm going to intentionally plan every bit of my time. Our time really is the most valuable resource we have. You can't get it back, right? So why not be intentional with it if it is your greatest resource? If I gave you $1 million and said, hey, I need you to take care of this money, you'd be very intentional about how you use that money. So time is way more valuable than that. I actually heard a thing, I think it was, TikTok, which I never watched, but the guy was like, hey, he's like, I have a deal for you. I'm going to give you $1 billion today to use. And the guy's like, okay. He's like, but you don't get to wake up tomorrow. Would you take the money? He's like, no, I would not take the money. So our time is way more valuable than anything else. So just being intentional with that is super important.
Your health is your wealth.
Health is your wealth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just a couple last things too. Obviously, sleep is big for stress. So you want to, number one, not be eating late at night. Have your last meal at least 3 hours before bed. You don't want your body digesting food and using the resources for that while you're trying to sleep. And you also want to make sure you get the most sleep possible. Our REM cycle, which is the cycle we follow to get our deepest sleep and restore ourselves, is about a 90-minute cycle. And you want to have several of those throughout the night. So that's why everybody recommends